Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Well, hello again, and welcome to episode 181 of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Steve Pander.
And I'm Zachary Eisenheimer.
We've got a jam-packed show for you. Obviously, on Sunday's show, we didn't look over anything that had happened in the San Jose game. We had our Wavelength special. Hope you enjoyed that. So this episode, it's jam-packed, wall-to-wall caps, and we've got a lot to cover. There's been 2 games played since we last did a show like this. San Jose away, Tigres away. I was going to say 2 kind of very different performances. It was 2 very interesting games. Let's just leave it at that to start with. We're going to start though by talking about the Tigres game. Tuesday night, history was made. The Whitecaps went to Mexico for the first time. Champions League Cup semi-final. Came away with a 2-0 defeat. Have to say, that's way better than I was expecting.
And I know you had 4-0 or something like that.
And despite me expecting a hammering, despite me knowing that Tigres are by far the better team, I'm left at the end of this 2-0 defeat feeling really gutted and really disappointed, basically because of the way that the goals played out.
I know, that's 100% true. Like, if you were to, before the game, if you were to be told it's 2-0, you have no problem with it, right?
You'd bite someone's hand off.
But the fact that it was, and I guess we'll get into it more, but the whiff, and then the own goal on that play, and then just the deflection, and he happened to bounce that in. It's like those 2 goals, it wasn't like Tigres actually like earned those goals. Well, I guess they did. But,
they both came from Whitecaps' mistakes,
yeah, exactly.
But Tigres were good enough to capitalise on it. And the Whitecaps had a chance to pounce on a couple of Tigres mistakes, and they weren't good enough to capitalise on that.
That's a significant understatement.
Literally, there's like 4 plays that decided the game. But the thing for me that stands out is the overall commitment of the players to the cause. I know there was these little errors, but like every player, it seemed more dialed in and focused than we've seen in a long time. Even more than the game in New Jersey. Yeah. Which they also seemed highly focused on playing a certain way.
But you could tell it was more preseason back then, and they weren't in the full fitness.
Well, you say everyone was dialed in. I beg to throw it up
in
here,
general,
Christian Teixeira not being dialed in on that second goal. And he did not track his man. We're going to hear from Robbo in a little bit. He gave us a call last night, and he basically alluded to that as well. 66 minutes, you've kept Tigres off the score sheet. On Monday, and if you were a subscriber to our extra podcast, you would have heard Robbo's conference call talking about the game. On Monday, Robbo talked about how this was a game, he was laying it out in 4 45-minute spurts. That's basically how the game plan was going to be. So, phase 1, first 45 minutes, went totally according to plan, shut out Tigres, looked pretty comfortable. Maybe a couple of like slightly scary moments, but really you didn't feel that they were going to be overrun. The first 10 minutes were going to be key, and the Whitecaps looked composed. They maybe didn't have a lot of the ball, but they didn't really look under a lot of danger.
No.
Getting to half-time at 0-0, that was a fantastic achievement.
Oh, huge, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was. We played a great first half, a great away first half in a knockout competition, and I think the players can be proud of that.
I totally agree with that, and if I was a betting man, I would never have bet on that scoreline.
No.
I would.
I wouldn't have bet on De Jong being the first Whitecap to get a yellow card either.
Yeah, well, that was such a lazy yellow card too. Let's not talk about yellow cards because I have a problem with that. But if you were a betting person, you would say the Whitecaps are going to give up a goal in the first 10 minutes is most likely out of all the 10-minute periods during the whole game. The fact that they got out of that first 10 minutes and they looked composed. They didn't look like too shaky. Although I know everybody's going to be a little shaky when you're playing in Mexico for the first time, but it wasn't like a typical one where you see everybody like falling over each other.
We took it at the pub. We took it as our approach was we were playing 9-10 minute games. So that's the way. Every time the clock hit the next 10 minutes, everyone was like,
yeah. I've never looked at a clock, I don't think, so much in a match as I did in that last night.
And it went so slow, the clock yesterday.
But we're going to talk about the defence in the second part and some individual performances there. But I want to look at the two goals. The first goal, have to talk about Kendall Waston. He was excellent, and we will talk about him in part two. But he failed to clear. It kept the danger on, and then he turns it into his own net.
Yeah.
You really felt for him, and it was just unfortunate the way that kind of opened then the game up.
Yeah, he had time to clear like properly. He didn't have to rush that. But somebody was saying, I think it was on the broadcast, his weaker left foot. I don't care how weak your left foot is, you still should be able to clear it somewhat better than that from the box.
Yeah, it was definitely.
And I agree with. I agree with you. He had a fantastic game overall.
Yeah, I think he had overall a great performance. For me, the bigger issue was the clearance, not the attempted block.
Yeah.
I know. So
I mean that happens to the best defenders.
Yeah, and so he tried to cover. I know when you look at it, his slide. Okay, yeah, you say he was recovering because of the initial error. His slide. It wasn't like he was inside the post. No. He was outside the post.
Yeah. So it was a good play defensively.
Yeah, I've heard some people say that maybe there wasn't a threat behind him and he should have left it, but
if you look at the I think it was Gignac that crossed the ball in at that point, he hammered that ball into the thing. I think he was thinking, let's bounce it off somebody, because he saw a lot of people in that box. I think they were he wanted to get it off anybody.
Well, that's what top strikers do.
Yeah,
like you put the ball in the danger area and you see what comes out of it, and that's basically where we fall down.
He wasn't laying it off as a pass for anybody at that point. He wanted to just hammer that ball into the 6-yard area. Hopefully, it knocks off somebody and it goes in.
And we look at the second goal as well. Big failure to track back from Christian Teixeira, left a lot of open space, but again it kind of stemmed from the Whitecaps being unable to clear the pressure to begin with. And you're looking at it, it's the 87th minute, you're thinking, wow, if we get out of here just one goal down, this is phenomenal. But then this could be the key, this could be the killer second goal, and it just left you so deflated that you expected more, but to lose that second goal, I let out the biggest F-bomb scream.
So, question to you guys, both you guys. Obviously, I might already have your answer, Michael, but which goal was more deflating, the own goal or the second goal with 5 minutes to go? It's kind of like a very hard, difficult decision to say which one was worse, right? Obviously, one...
For me, the second, because I expected them to at least score one.
Yeah, so you expected 4.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know a goal was likely to come.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when that second one went in, having defended so well,
and
having
just like
done
maybe
so
5,
much
6
hard
minutes
work,
to go
too.
Yeah, I think it was the second one as well. It was just it was just like the quickness of Vargas just to respond to the ricochet or the ball that came off the defender or whatever, and he hammered it.
But he kind of mishit it too, and I think that's maybe what made Ousted not get it to it.
I know, because I watched it, I was like, should Ousted have done better with that?
No, I think because he mishit it and it kind of bounced past him. I think if it had just been a solid strike, Ousted might have got to it. Because it might have gone into the middle of the net, not gone out to the towards the post.
Yeah.
So his mishit might have been what made it go in.
Tigres dominated that game, and when you look at it, the possession-wise, Whitecaps had 21% possession, 79% possession for Tigres. The shots and the passing and everything was like mass difference as well.
Yeah.
The Whitecaps, though, had a couple of chances. We'll talk about the first one. Brek Shea, who we're going to hear from later in the show, through on goal, lost his footing as he went through.
Sorry, what?
He lost his footing as he initially went through.
And he was
and then
onside.
he went to the goalkeeper and he dived. He's going to say he lost his footing a second time, but he stumbled as he went through initially, which is why I feel he didn't do better. And he knew he'd wasted the opportunity, so he thought, hey, these CONCACAF refs are crap. I'm going to dive and see if I can get something.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. But was his touch that heavy past the keeper that he needed to go down?
No, I don't think it was.
It didn't look like he needed to go down.
That's the annoying thing to me is, I think if he stayed on his feet, he could have got that and he could have tucked it away. He was still kind of stumbling from when he initially stumbled as he went through. That's the only thing I'll say in his defence of that. I do wonder though, so many Whitecaps players were stumbling in that second half. Did they have the right footwear on?
Or did they water the pitch on that side of the field more or something like that?
Because it was a great chance, and that's the difference between the top teams and the top players and the Whitecaps.
Yeah, and you're thinking if it was like Brek Shea is a good player, but he never. And we talked about it when he came on as a sub.
Yeah,
he doesn't seem to have a good touch up top.
He's not the guy that you want to be running in and goal in that situation.
You think if
he's not a center forward. He's not.
You think if it's a guy like maybe a Kakuta was in that position, Nicholas Mosqueda was in that position, Montero was in that position, that would have been finished.
Yeah. I mean, you have to
100%.
You have to have expected Montero to do that.
Yeah.
And just quickly talking of Montero, he got no service last night.
And that's
he looked poor.
Well,
but it's because he got no service.
By the way,
as someone pointed out to me, Lewandowski would have looked poor playing with that performance last night. Oh, you disagree?
He can create more for himself.
How about?
But the thing was, when they put out the lineup, it looked like they were saying this is a 4-2-3-1, and he's playing behind.
But they were
behind.
I had him as a 10. I think.
It looked like a 4-4-2,
but it looked more like a 4-4-2
defensively, at least.
Yeah, he did not contribute much yesterday, other than some running and some adding to that defensive shape,
which was disappointing. But he obviously is not fully fit, and that was his first start. So I mean, for me, the Shea chance was the best chance.
Yeah.
Nicholas Mosqueda, he came on, he had a great chance as well.
Which he created himself.
Yeah, showed great football IQ to pounce on that defensive mistake, and then just should have done better. You have to hit the target.
Yeah, he missed the shot. He shot wide. Yeah, should he have gone near post as opposed to back post, or through the keeper? Yeah, what it comes down to is they scored 2 goals from all their chances.
Yeah.
We had 2 chances and we didn't score them.
And the other thing as well is, I'm talking about teams take those chances. If you look at Montreal's run to the final, they took those chances in Mexico and the away games, and anything that they had someone that buried them. The plus point is we created those chances. We showed we can get in behind the Tigres backline.
Yeah.
And that gives me some hope going into the second leg. It's an uphill task.
It is, but at least if it had happened like the way you were talking about 4-0, there'd been no hope, and I guarantee you there would be nobody in the stands, or very few people could show up to the game. Now it's 2-0. They could sell that they have a chance. They score 2 goals. It goes to added time or extra time, whatever, and they can have a chance to do that then.
Yeah, to me, it reminds me. It's set up a lot like the final league match of last year, where we're going in and we need to win by 2, or we kind of need to score 3. We need to win by 3, really. And it's one day, we're at home, and everyone knows what the job is.
Yeah.
And if they all work together towards it, now obviously the opponent's far better than that day.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the away goal kills the tie. Tigres score at any point at BC Place, and the tie you can basically say is over.
Unless we're already up 4-0.
Yeah.
No,
so basically the tie would be over.
No, but personally for me, I would prefer, and you guys can talk about what you guys prefer. I prefer a 5-0 loss, and they go after the game, rather than being careful and, losing maybe 1-0 or tying 1-1 or something like that.
I disagree.
I kind of want them. I personally want them to go after Tigres. I know they maybe don't match up well against them talent wise. I want them to go after them and go after the win. and score, like go after it, and who, if they lose, they lose. Whatever. It's a 1-1. What's a 1-1 draw going to do in a 2-leg playoff when they're going to lose? It's going to be overall 3-1.
I can almost guarantee you they're not going to go after them like gangbusters from the opening whistle.
I would prefer that. That's my preference.
For me, you have to play the patient game, and you've got 90 minutes to score 2 goals. Then it goes to extra time, and away goals are off the table.
I want 4 goals in the first half. By the way,
I think the fans are going to be expecting that. And funnily enough, that is actually what I spoke to Robbo about. So we're going to play some audio now. Carl Robinson gave us a call last night as he was just about to board the charter flight home. Got to say, first of all, really appreciate him taking the time to do that. So we only had 5 minutes with him because the plane was about to take off. But he made the time to speak to us.
And the army was leaving too. So I
think all the armed guards were there. It's like, you're not getting on this plane unless you call the AFTN soccer show. So that's how it played out. We've got a little bit of pull down there in Mexico. So Carl gave us a call. So we chatted about the game, just some of the players' performances, Ken Owas and David Ousted, and what to expect in that second leg. Are they going to go gung-ho or are they going to play the patience game? So let's hear what Robbo had to tell us. Well, first thing to ask you, I guess, then, is it's a couple of hours after the match. How are you feeling right now? What thoughts are going through your head?
Yeah, the game actually panned out exactly as I thought it would in relation to the type of game it was. We knew that they'd have lots of possession. We knew that they would try and put us under pressure in certain ways. But I thought the boys were excellent in the shape of their organisation and the discipline. But it was just disappointing that the 2 goals came from 2 little details which we didn't get right. Obviously, the first one was an own goal, it's a clearance, and the second one we didn't track back properly in time. We didn't expect that to happen. We let a runner go, and obviously it was a great strike. But there's a lot of positives and pluses. We're still in the tie. It's going to be very difficult, we know that, but we've got to try and get the first goal when we play in 2 weeks' time.
Now, David Ousted was fantastic tonight, and kind of a little bit of redemption for him. He gets sent off on Saturday and possibly costs the game, and then tonight he came up with 6 saves and a couple of really, really important ones. Just maybe talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, no, listen, we know he can do that. Obviously, we want David to get back to his consistent best and do what he does the best week in, week out. Unfortunately, on the weekend, it didn't go his way. But he's rebounded back very well, and he put in a really strong performance. As did a number of players. We've had all the players. They give their all, and I asked them to not leave anything on the pitch. Have no regrets. And we've certainly done that. And as I said, they were the better team on the night. We know that. We know that there's a difference between Mexican teams and MLS teams. We're trying to narrow that gulf as much as we can. But obviously, we've got a second leg that we're still very much in the tie if we can get this first goal.
Kendo as well tonight. I know he got the own goal, and you must really feel for him for that. But I mean, that aside, some of the tackles he was putting in, especially the fact he'd got booked early on, you'd think it might worry him, but it didn't seem to play in his mind, and he seemed to have a great showing out there.
Yeah, he did. He's been excellent all season. Since he started the season with Red Bulls away. The performances he's put on have been very, very strong, and today was no different. Again, I had a little concern when he picked up an early yellow card, but he handled the game very well and took out the own goal. He put on a monster performance.
Having the captain's armband on him, and I know folks seem a bit obsessed about captaincy over here, but having that armband on him, though, does seem to... It brings the best out of him. It seems to calm him down a little bit.
I think it does, and that's the purpose of it as well. It's to make him concentrate on being a leader, and we know he's a leader by the way he plays. We just need to cut out the little bits and pieces that he got himself involved in too much last year with the nonsense, as I call it. So, as a captain, you don't do that. I don't want you to do that. So the added responsibility, hopefully, will continue to show his good form.
No goals tonight, no shots on target tonight, but there was a couple of glimpses there that you can get in behind that defence, that you've got the players that can kind of unlock them a little bit. Nico's chance, Brek's chance, it must give you a lot of hope for that second leg.
It is. Listen, it's not over by a long way, and obviously they'll be pretty confident. We've got to make sure we don't concede, because that makes it difficult. But we're at home. We know we're strong at home. We know they're not used to playing on turf. And we'll go after the first goal, because we did have 2 gilt-edged chances today. And what I said to the guys is, when you get the chances, when you play against top teams, you have to take them. Unfortunately, we didn't take them. They took 2 of their number of chances that they had. So we knew that would be the case. Unfortunately, disappointing we couldn't get the away goal, because that would have made it a little bit more interesting. But great experience for us. Great experience for the boys. They gave everything. But we are still very much in this tie, and we'll go into that in the second leg with the mindset of trying to get an early goal in the first 20 minutes.
And just the last thing, just kind of about that, the fans are going to be like, from the start, they're going to be like roaring the team on, wanting you to get the goal. But it's going to be a kind of matter of a bit of a patient game as well, really, because you don't want to like open up and let them score.
Yeah, listen, it's important that we get the first goal. We want to start well, which we like to at home. But it's also important, well, if we get the first goal after 60 minutes, then we still just need one more goal. So we know we've got 90 minutes to try and score 2 goals, and we have to make sure we don't concede any, take the game to extra time. So there's still all to play for. And I know the fans will get right behind this, because it is a moment of history again, playing a home game in the Champions League semi-final. And if we're going to do something special, then we need them firmly all behind us.
That's great. Thanks so much, Carol. Safe travels home, and I'll see you at the weekend.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Michael.
That's great. Thanks, Carol. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So that was Robbo talking about the game, the post-game after the match against Tigres. And my only disappointment in the interview was you didn't ask him about the Lucha Libre scene in Mexico and what he thought about that.
I don't think they had a lot of time to watch the wrestling, but it was tweeted out that in the press box they had WWE SmackDown on last night.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, that made me feel better. Something else I actually meant to ask Robbo, but because we were really pushed for time, I wanted to ask him if he screamed a profanity as loudly as I did when that second goal went in.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did. But Robbo there, we talked about Kendall Waston, we talked about David Ousted. Just want to have a little bit of a chat about the Whitecaps' defence and kind of morphing that into the performance on Saturday against San Jose. First of all, we talked a little bit about Kendall Waston, and I asked Robbo there about whether being the captain has calmed him down, and he's, as you heard, he basically said yep, and that's part of the reason that he gave him the captaincy.
Solid answer,
yep. To give him that discipline. But he does look a lot more disciplined. And I know he got a yellow card last night, but it was a cheap yellow card, and I think it was a little bit harsh on him. But he knuckled down. He put in some really strong challenges last night, even on the yellow card, and I thought he was exceptional.
No, 100%. And I think he kept the defense organized. He was. You could see that he was shouting instructions to everybody. He was basically essentially the leader on the team. And the thing is, you talk about the defense on Tuesday compared to Saturday, and I personally think that if they played like they played on Tuesday in any MLS game, they would have the best defensive record in MLS. So I'm sure, Zach, you probably agree with that as well.
Well, Michael and I were talking about this yesterday.
I wasn't part of that conversation.
Yeah, I said to Michael...
essentially, if you don't know, I almost got punched by Zach because I took his thing. I didn't know it was coming.
Michael and I were talking yesterday, and I basically said this virtually the same thing to him.
Yeah.
I said, if we... And it's not just the back four, it's not just the defenders, it was the way the whole team played.
Yeah.
And if they played with that much commitment and focus and concentration to
it's the focus. It's the focus that
apart
was the
from
big
Christian
thing.
Teixeira.
Defensive shape and defending period. If they did that in MLS games, it would be hard for them to lose MLS games.
Yeah. It might be hard for them to win because they're not going to score.
No, but they would.
They still be able
to.
They still be able to counterattack. They'll still be able to find times where they can possess the ball. It's when you don't have the ball how you have your formation and everything like that.
And they would. I think they would take some of those chances the 2 chances they missed in that game. I think against MLS teams, they're calmer, they're more relaxed. I think they take them.
And the interesting thing for me, Robbo said that they had planned the game went the way he thought it was going to go. But he said, then we don't track back on the second goal for Christian Teixeira. And he went, so that we didn't plan for. So he has clearly told all the players, I'm looking for you to put in strong defensive shifts. And we're jumping ahead a little bit here, but you had Kekuta Mane on Saturday that did not play strong defensively. You had Christian Teixeira last night that did not play strong defensively. The Caps were punished when those guys did not do that. If Robbo is needing his team to play like that, do these guys have much of a future here?
Well, it was people on social media yesterday were clamoring, "Oh, bring on Kekuta for the last 15 minutes."
Yeah, it's like, did they not see the game?
Yeah, did you not see what happened in San Jose? There was no way Kekuta was going to be brought on yesterday because of his defensive liabilities, which is a reason why he was being played as a center striker in other games this season.
Yeah.
And that's probably why they're going to try and use him there mostly this season, is up top because of his defensive liabilities.
Yeah.
And part of me wonders if the one thing I'll say about Kekuta on Saturday, and I don't know how much you want to tangent too much into that, was I wonder how much of it for him was mental. I wonder how much of it for him was knowing I'm not going to be starting against Tigres. That's why I'm starting today. Whether he was told that or he just knew that, understood that, and that affected his play in the San Jose game.
Well,
I'm not saying it should. I'm just saying
the thing is, if he was told that he wasn't playing against Tigres because he's not defensively responsible, then it should have affected him where he showed defensive responsibility against San Jose.
No, I don't think he was told that for that game. But I think either they said you're starting at San Jose because you're not starting at Tigres.
No, but he
said, okay, I'm starting at San Jose. This means I'm not starting in Tigres.
But he should have shown some responsibility. That way, it shows that he could play in Tigres.
Of course, he should have.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is, I wonder if that played on him mentally.
He needs to get his mental.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of talk by angry people on Twitter. Well, Twitter's basically just full of angry people, really. But there's a lot of folk calling for him to be traded. And you know what? That isn't a bad shout. And I can't believe I'm saying that. But you've got Alphonso Davies that can play there. You've got Brek Shea that can play there.
Yeah.
Teixeira, who I would also possibly try and trade. But Mosqueda, De Jong.
Yeah.
You have the cover there. And Kekuta is so thought of in American soccer. I mean, you had to look... Everyone knew he was not going to start last night. But the MLS preview caption and the whole picture they had for the whole game was a picture of Mane as the Whitecaps guy.
Yeah.
So he is so highly thought of. The return the Caps could get for Mane in a trade
would it be more
right
than,
now
yeah.
is massive.
Would it be more than what they could have got from Maddox or what Maddox said they would have gotten for him?
I don't think anything would have got what Maddox thought he was going to get traded for. But we could get
I know, I agree with you.
We could get a massive return.
It'd be a king's ransom.
But the clock is ticking, right? Because
exactly.
He's in the last year of his deal. Come July 1st, he can sign a pre-contract wherever he wants, although MLS probably has rules on him going wherever in MLS. The one thing is we do know is that they have begun to talk, like they in the preseason there were discussions on what the future looks like going forward. I don't know the details of those discussions. But
I would think the Caps want to lock him up to keep their options open.
Totally.
But yeah, I mean, if Manny says, "Look, I'm not going to bother signing anything just now, or we'll talk about it in the summer," that even adds more to the fact that we can trade him.
If there's not a deal, if there's not a redone deal here for him in Vancouver by the end of June, that's a big problem.
He'll be either sent to. I don't think he'll go to Europe yet, but I think will be traded within MLS.
Another thing as well, though, is he can leave because he now has his American citizenship, so he can go anywhere, and it's not going to affect residency status or whatever.
Well, yeah, because there are rules in Europe for depending on the team or the country you're from.
Throwing this out there then, if he is on the trade block, even say in this transfer window, not looking at individual players unless you can think of somebody, but what should we try and get back? What kind of positional piece should we try and get back for him?
A striker, number one, a proper number 9.
Montero.
Montero. But what I'm saying is another striker who maybe is domestic, so American. And with some size, so kind of offsets what Montero supplies.
Will Bruin already went to the Flounders, man.
Alan Gordon.
Again? We had him once, man.
I still like Alan Gordon.
That's a little bit little for Kekuta, man.
Alan Gordon and a bucket load of Tam.
No, but I think there's got maybe somebody out there that they can trade for. that can provide that.
The problem with doing a big trade to bring in a striker is Robbo's only going to play one striker. And that one striker is going to be Montero. So you're kind of
you get somebody,
wasting it or looking for next year.
You get somebody that's young enough that he's willing to stay on the bench behind Montero.
If we get
and can develop into the number one.
If we get a box-to-box center midfielder,
that's another position.
Then they're going to play two strikers. They're not going to bring in a number 10. I guess Jordy might play there, but
the plan is for Jordy to be the 10.
Right.
And Robbo said that, and Bobby said that very clearly pre-season. When Jordy's fit, Jordy's going to be the 10.
But until then, you can play two strikers.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: the hope is, and I know you could say, "Oh, this has been 4 or 5 years, whatever, over 4 years," is that Kakuta would recognize, because there have been. I will say this: there have been glimpses. There have been times where, he has played defense. Oh, he has tracked back. Oh, he has
consistency.
He has marked his man in the whatever. Yeah, it's the consistency of that, and maybe what's happened in this last week is an encouragement for him to focus on that part of his game.
So we're talking about the defence, and we talked to Robbo there about Kendall Waston and David Ousted's performances. Mark Rogers was on Twitter, former centre-back himself. I'm saying how well I thought Kendall played last night, but Mark was saying, no, you're a centre-back, your job is to make no mistakes.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you play good for 95% of the time.
Yeah.
If that other 5% costs you the team's goals, you've not had a good game. Fair?
No, well, coming from another center back, I probably that's the way they all feel. That's the mentality that you go into every game, because we talk about, for example, referees. If we don't talk about them, that means they had a good game. It's the same thing with center back, same thing with
defensive
keepers.
Midfielders kind of fall into that as well.
Yeah, so if you don't talk about them, that means they had a good game. If you talk about them, they made a mistake.
I don't disagree with Mark Rogers, Ted Rogers, whatever you want to call him. He's a good fella. I think he's looking at it. I think that's probably how Kendall will feel about it, right?
Yeah.
He'll probably feel like, I played good for X amount of time.
Well,
but
Kendall obviously feels bad because he was looking at the game tape on the plane, the Whitecaps, and I think they did this on purpose to try and deflect any abuse of him. He was looking through game tape and he watched that play, they said, over and over and over. Because he wants to get better.
An analyst who's played center back before is going to make those comments for sure.
But he did he did more than, it was as the captain and as his leading from the back. He did more than just what he did. He galvanized our team, I felt like. There was that one corner in the first half where the ball went out to the top of the box. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, who's going to close him down? And Kendall, just came charged and almost killed the, if he had made contact, he would have just killed him.
A bull, basically.
Yeah, and he just went right through him. And then, the whole line moved up and the ball play moved out. And there's more tangibles than just...
But then on the flip side of that, and we'll turn to San Jose now, Kendall and Christian Dean got into that tangle that led to the game-changing moment.
I have a bigger problem than what happened yesterday. That's the bigger issue, because whether it was Kendall, I think personally with two center backs, I think it's Kendall's fault, because he is the veteran, he's the captain. I don't know if he was captain that day, but he is the captain normally. He should have called Christian off.
Yeah,
whether Christian didn't hear it or
should not be going for the same ball.
Whether Christian didn't hear it or not, I don't know. But he should have been the one that called it off. So if there was no call, if there was no calling off of Christian, it's Kendall's fault on that goal.
I hear what you're saying, and it will be interesting to find out what happened there. We maybe talk to these guys as they come back from the trip. But at the same time, as yes, maybe one person should call it off. The way I saw it was, you had the ball coming towards the right center back side of the field with the strike, which was Kendall's side, and you had the left center back coming over, not into their position, not into their, not to where they should be positioned, and trying to intercept it in front of the other player.
Yeah.
So you're right. I think not calling is a part of it, but just the basics of it are that left center back should never be cutting in front of the
but that's
center back
an inexperienced center back who hasn't played in a year and a half or whatever it is. So
who had a great game the week before.
Yeah, and he had a great game against San Jose too. Not a great game, but he had a solid game against San Jose too.
That,
yeah. So and on that goal too, I have a little bit of an issue with Ousted as well. Because Ousted.
He was definitely ousted on the play. I mean.
No, but he needs to be a little bit more in tune with his body and not.
He flies out of the box more than any keeper. Yeah. Although the Tigres guy last night seemed to like to come out as well. It might be the red shirts. It's just.
I think you gotta stay in front of Wondolowski, just make him go big and wave your hands out and then try to distract him from the thing.
Yeah, he went to the deck, which wasn't.
Well, because he had come out of the box. That was. But so you had, again, talking about Twitter. You had I think Marius on Twitter was like. Marius was commenting on Twitter and saying like, "Oh, he made the right play. He made the right decision. He should have come out. It's okay that he got sent off. It's better to not give up a goal." Obviously, hindsight is 2020.
That was the view I take as well, though. Like I would rather you're 2 goals up.
I'd rather have my keeper in there and not have to go down to 10 men.
Yeah, but you're 2 goals up. You have to feel confident that you're going to close a game out when you're 2 goals up.
But for 2-3 quarters of the game,
I don't.
Even so, I wouldn't have expected us to come away with a 3-2 defeat.
No,
but he didn't come out trying to bring him down, and it wasn't a deliberate. Like he stuck his leg was trailing. So it's not that he deliberately tried to get himself sent off.
It looked like he raised his
leg. Does his leg normally move in that motion when he's running out?
Yeah.
Does he usually trail his leg when he's moving off?
No, that looked a little bit intentional, which is why I had no problem with the sending.
I'm still not 100% certain, though, that he made contact with Wondolowski.
I think he did.
I haven't seen an angle that showed me that. It was rash anyway.
San Jose.
Yeah, it was rash, no matter what. And he does have a tendency for flying out of his box, and we've seen it a lot. But
we're talking about a very key moment and probably the decisive moment in the game. We are forgetting about the first 22 minutes of the match in which
talk about that.
Eric Hurtado put in a really good performance, a good finish. And a great assist.
As we've always said in this podcast, Hurtado is one for the future. He's a great striker. We've had his back since day one.
His near post strike in the preseason, a fantastic finish at that time. But I agree with you. He's had a couple of. San Jose. He showed that he can be that guy up top in certain moments.
I don't appreciate your sarcasm.
I actually said I can't remember if it was. I can't remember if it was in the podcast or if it was on Twitter. I remember I got poo-pooed by a lot of people for it. I said that I think Hurtado can get to double figures this year. I genuinely think that if he gets an early goal, he'll have the confidence to go and do that. He's now got that early goal, and he had a great play for the assist on the second goal from Mosqueda as well.
I think I agree with you because if you look at all competitions, he's going to be playing a lot in other competitions as well. I think he can get those goals.
Here's one thing, Michael. I don't know about you because you go to training more than I do, but the training sessions I've been to since they came back from Portland, or definitely since they came back from Wales, that goal felt a little bit like the setup. It felt a little bit like I was watching them do what they do in training. The way they've been focusing on the wide play and cutting those balls back either for the number 10-ish or the one of the central midfielders, right? We remember that one training session we were like, wow, Matthias Lab is shooting a lot and to me it felt like this is the fruit of the hard work they've been putting in training. It felt like almost like not automatic.
Hurtado has always worked his ass off in training, and it's like I know we give him a lot of stick on this show because a striker has to score. Ultimately, that's what a striker has to do. I still have my doubts that he is MLS starting quality. There's no doubt he's a good fringe guy, and in a situation where you're playing 2 different teams, he was always going to get the start. I think against San Jose on Saturday. He does score at training. He needs the confidence to keep doing it consistently during games. And I will say the nous that he showed to get that first goal, it was great. He showed hustle. He showed a really good finish. And if he can keep doing that, then he will get goals.
I was impressed with the second goal. The way he set that up too. That was a great move on the fullback. He left him in his dust and he found Mosqueda.
And we were in dreamland at that point, and then it soon turned into the nightmare when Ousted gets sent off.
So Ousted gets sent off, and then we go from the turning point of the game to one of the most criticized points of the game is you have to bring on a keeper.
Yeah.
So you're bringing on your backup keeper, Paulo Tornaghi, and it's who are you going to take off? So on social media and whatnot, people were extremely critical of the fact that Nicholas Mosqueda was removed from the game. So what we did was obviously remove the number 10, so that we still had essentially a shape of the team.
A 4-4.
Yeah,
4-4-1.
2 banks of 4, sort of, and Hurtado can pull back in. Now, lots of people were critical of that because of Mane's previous defensive liabilities, and Teixeira, who also sometimes can be defensively not the most intimidating.
I would have taken Teixeira off, I've got to say, and I would have put Nico out wide.
Or no, I wouldn't have done that. I would have done Teixeira, but I would have put Hurtado out wide.
Oh, actually,
and keep Nico in there so he can control the ball in the midfield and connect with those.
Actually, no, that would have been
and play
fantastic.
with no 9. So I felt like Nico should not have been taken off also, and I thought Mane or Teixeira should have been taken off, and I understood the criticism, but then I also listened to your conversation with Robbo. Do you want to?
Yeah, actually, let's just play it. So this was in our extra podcast. So we'll a lot of folk won't have heard this. So we'll play this. I asked Robbo after the game. Robbo came out, according to the tweet that TSN Radio sent out, basically saying, "Yeah, I was wrong. I shouldn't have taken him off. I apologised to him," making it sound that he was like, "Yep, I did the wrong thing." Opening Robbo up to a flood of criticism about just his tactics and everything like that. So I asked Robbo about that, and here's what he said about that. Just going back to Saturday's game, it was interesting on the radio afterwards. You mentioned that you felt you'd got the substitution wrong by taking Nico off. It's got you a lot of criticism, really, by kind of admitting that. Do you wish you maybe hadn't admitted that and just kept it private?
Well, if that's the way it was portrayed and come across, I didn't admit I got it wrong. What I said was, in hindsight, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, I maybe could have looked at doing something different, and I did. At the time, I did look. Me and the coaches, we spoke about certain things. And the one thing that was sticking in my mind is last year when we played here at San Jose, Nico played on the left side of a 4-4-2, and he didn't have as good a game as he would have liked, and I think he felt he was in an uncomfortable position, and that was part of the reason as well why he started so well and so bright and scored and assisted, and then to go and ask him to play in that role which he's not uncomfortable probably wouldn't have been fair with him. So at the time, it was portrayed that I got it wrong. No, that's not what I meant to say. I meant to say that in hindsight it's easy to look back and say, well, might he have done better in certain aspects? Yeah, he might have, but unfortunately I don't get to take that back. I made the decision. I will handle the decision. I got to take criticism for it, whether it's right or wrong. So if I meant it that way, then I didn't mean it to come out that way.
So as Robbo said there, he didn't admit he made a mistake. He just said in hindsight he would maybe have done it a little bit differently.
And he gave the rationale, which I think validates, whether you agree with it or not, validates his opinion. He says, I remember when we were here at the end of the season last year in San Jose, we put Nico on the left and he was very ineffective. And I didn't want to have to do I didn't want to do the same thing. I didn't want to have Nico wide again because we felt like he was not effective there 6 months ago or whatever it was. So instead, let's keep our wide players wide and do this.
Going on a tangent though, I would have loved you to follow up. Why do you keep putting Bustos on the left side or the wing then?
I have asked him about that. And he said it's because he needs to be able to play all the midfield positions.
Then why can't Nico?
Exactly.
But that's not the point. Okay, let's get back to the...
Yeah.
That's an in-game. That was an in-game change, right?
So I don't want to go off on a huge tangent here because this is probably a good debate to have in another show. And it's maybe going to be hard to keep this brief. But it does... The criticism that Robbo got on Saturday, I feel, in a lot of ways, is justified. He shows time and again a tactical naivety that gets punished. He talks all the time about not getting caught up in formations, but is pretty resolute in playing a 4-2-3-1, even when there's better players to play different formations. He's a young manager, he'll tell you he makes mistakes and he's learning on the job, but after this amount of time in charge, patience is wearing thin with a number of fans, and you do have to question, does he have that tactical ability to react when things go wrong in games?
It's hard to say. You think, does he have it or will he develop it? And
does he have it now? Because he clearly needs to develop it.
I Well, that obviously we have your answer.
Yeah, okay.
Then.
I'm leading with that one.
No, but I agree with you that it's at moments he does, but there are moments he doesn't. So maybe the same thing with Kakuta. He needs more consistency with having those being tactically aware. I think I've seen him, like the way he's put out games. Some games he has been masterful, but there are times
Tigres is an example of that because that was a perfect game
plan. And in New Jersey.
I think in game he might have to deal with getting better tactically. I think maybe he's just not able to react.
He did say he consulted his coaches, and it was a coaching staff decision.
I don't think you should. I don't think you should consult with coaches during a game. I think the coach, the head guy, needs to make that. I think you need to maybe go into the game with ideas of this happens, this is what we're going to do. But once it happens, you have to go at it.
The criticism is fair, and Robbo will always he'll always take criticism. He knows that's part of his job or whatever. The thing I feel, the other side of this, Michael, we kind of already talked about it, really, is I feel like the players, and you could say, okay, maybe Kakuta specifically in some ways, let him down. Because we don't know all the words that were said, but when they took him off, Kakuta was left on for his pace to cause, to be able to stretch the field, to counterattack, give San Jose something to worry about.
We've seen him play in 10-men situations where he does that.
Exactly. But whether it was things were specifically said from Robbo or the coaching staff, Kakuta let them down defensively, right? Yeah. And it should have been like, hey, we're down to 10 men. I need to be more defensive responsible. Whether that's clearly communicated or not, like you should know that as a player. We are now short. Yeah. I need to do more. And on the second goal that we gave away, Kakuta was.
When a 16-year-old is showing better football IQ in that sense than Mane, that's had all these years in the league, that's when there's a big issue.
And Jay Duke has called it before. Yeah. Whenever we've talked about, why would you take off Davies when he's way more responsible defensive?
So coming full circle, just to wrap this segment up, the defence in San Jose, after we went down the man, and a lot of it was from the midfielders not tracking back, but even the back four, they were all over the shop. And there was a lot of mistakes. There was diving in, and I don't know. It's like, who is our best back four just now? Who do we want to see going forward?
I think Harvey on the left side for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's a given.
I think Williams has earned it on the right side.
I agree.
Waston,
and for me, Parker's the best centre back consistency wise. He doesn't make as many mistakes,
but I'm not.
But he's not as talented as Waston.
I think
Parker should be in there for sure, and I think Waston's in there.
I think Parker and Waston are the number 1 and 2, but yeah. Kendall's going to be leaving for international duty. He's going to be at the Gold Cup. Yeah. There's going to be different things. So Christian Dean needs to continue to get some minutes in some scenarios, so that when there's going to be 2 to 4 games in a row, he's ready. Yeah. He's ready to roll.
It's the life of a footballer. 1 minute you're getting all the praise from Saturday, and then you're getting slated.
And who knows when that happens? Then Christian Dean might take the spot for himself.
Yeah, and I'm not as nervous as I was at the beginning of the year with Christian Dean being the number 3 center back. That's 100%. I was a little, because that's how long he's been out, but it's not there anymore.
Thanks for joining us in that camp.
So let's move on from talking about the most recent 2 games, and we're going to bring you our player interview now with Brek Shea. He didn't play on Saturday, he wasn't in the 18. He was being fully rested for the game on Tuesday down in Mexico. Brek Shea, he's got a bit of a reputation. He comes to the club, whether fairly or unfairly, with some things that's gone on in his past when he was a young player. It's kind of always got to be remembered that he came into professional football straight from high school, and young guys make mistakes. That's what Robo said when he came here. He's like, look, every young guy makes mistakes, and it's like how you then mature into that. He's also a guy that is kind of known for not giving very chatty interviews. And you've kind of seen that in some of the scrums so far that he's done here in Vancouver. So I take that as a challenge. So I wanted to have a sit down with Brek, just to get to know the guy a little bit better, talk about some of his previous football exploits and just what it means to him to be in Vancouver. So here's our chat now with Whitecaps' new left winger, striker, however he wants to get played, Brek Shea. So I guess I want to start off by asking you, I kind of mentioned this a little bit after the CCL game, but it's been a bit of an emotional whirlwind for you the last bit of times. Have you had a chance really to settle in here yet, or is it still all really new to you?
No, I mean, I think I'm settled in on the side of as the team, knowing the players and the staff and stuff like that. I think they've made it as comfortable as it can be, and I think until I have a house and moved in and my family's up here and that stuff, then obviously that side of it, I'll start to feel comfortable.
MLS, it's such a weird league because you don't know that moves are coming. When did you first find out that you were coming here? Was it after the deal was done?
Yeah, I found out 10 minutes before everyone else found out.
Wow.
So I was told, and I didn't even have a chance to tell my family before my family saw it on social media. So that's the only notice I got.
Coming up here, obviously, do you know any of the guys in the team before you came here, or is it all new faces to you?
No, I mean, I've played with some of the guys, and I've played against most of the guys, so I know some better than others, and I know of most of them, to be honest. So my week here has been good. I've got to know, obviously, the players a lot better than I didn't know.
When you went to Orlando, when you came back to MLS, they had you there in a defensive role. Was that something that you knew when you went there? Or was that just something that you kind of talked about when you got there? Did you like that role, or are you happier in an attacking role?
I didn't know when I was going there that was going to happen, but I accepted. I'm pretty much a team player, and I just want the team to do well, and because I know if the team does well, then it reflects on individuals. So, like I said, I didn't know, but I can play it. I don't think I had. I like to attack more, so I spend a lot of times attacking. So if we were in a game where we didn't have the ball a lot, it wasn't as fun for me, obviously.
Now, you came out of high school, you signed a pro contract right away with Dallas. You kind of held up as the next big thing in American soccer. Did that, looking back at that time, did that put added pressure on you? Is there anything you would have done a bit different?
No, probably not. I mean, people tagged me. As that, I never said anything like that. I play the sport for fun. Like, do I wish I played better longer in certain times and consistency? Yeah, I mean, I don't think any player doesn't. But I'm happy with what I've done. I've learned a lot, and it's made me a better person and a better player.
When you see a guy here like Alfonso, everyone's talking about him, he's getting hyped up. Does that kind of take you back to like when you were about that age and everyone was talking about you?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. He's a very good player. I think no one can doubt that. I think players can get overhyped, and like you said, it can be not overhyped. It could just put added pressure in it. But I think the coaching staff here is a good one for players, and especially young players, to help them keep them level-headed. And so I think they're doing a pretty good job with him.
You went over to England, obviously, and there's been a lot written. I've read lots of stuff in the last couple of days just about what you're talking about, your experience there.
Yeah.
A lot of, like when we speak to a lot of young players here especially, they're like, oh, that's their dream to go and play there. Mm-hmm. But the grass isn't always greener, as I think you've kind of said. What would you say to somebody that's their dream to go over there? I mean, would you want to go back and try it again?
I mean, everyone has their own dreams, and people are different. I would say I learned a lot and made me a better person, like I said earlier, but I didn't enjoy my time there. Not so much the soccer side of things, my life outside of soccer, I did not enjoy that. So when I wasn't enjoying my everyday life, it's hard to enjoy football, which you love. So that I think that was the hardest part. But I don't want to say that someone else might not enjoy it, because everyone's different. So I'm just saying from my personal experience, my life outside of football made it hard for me to enjoy football. So
one of the things I read, you were talking about your time there, and you said that the camaraderie wasn't really there in the locker room, and it is different. I mean, from covering the game myself over there, it is very different when you're speaking to players and stuff. Here in Vancouver, they kind of pride themselves on having like a close-knit locker room. Have you noticed that already in your short time here?
Yeah, I think this team is very close-knit, and the camaraderie is really good. I think it's second to only the 2011 Dallas team for me that I played on, and we went to the finals that year. So that was the closest knit team I've ever seen, and there was older guys when I played with there that said that I'd never played another team like this. And as a young kid, you kind of just laugh it off. You don't really expect that. And now that I've played in different teams and over the years, it really was something special. But this is, I mean, like I've only been here a week, and I know everyone, and I feel welcome, and everyone jokes with everyone. And that's not just players, that's staff and coaching, medical. Everyone seems to be very, very close. And it's when you have something like that as an organization, you can do something special.
And I watched an interesting video with you last night, going back a couple of years, where you were fishing with a guy and you were talking about like things like fishing and painting. You like that outside of soccer because you don't want soccer to be everything that kind of takes over your whole life. A lot of players don't have those kind of outside interests, but has it really helped you the last couple of years, just stuff like that?
I just think that I really love soccer, and I think with anything, if you do it too much or you don't have a chance to do something else to escape that or to leave it, and then when you come back you enjoy it that much more. Think about like when players in any sport talk about they get injured, and then how much more they appreciate the game when they come back because they realize when they're injured. For me, it's like I play soccer and I work my hardest as I can, and then when I go home I want to do other things so that the next day I'm mentally and physically fresh to play it again, and I'm hungry for it again. Because if I did it all day, for me, again, this is personally, it wouldn't be as fun for me. I mean, when you play as a kid, it's stressless, it's something fun, and now it's our job, so you got to find a way, an outlet to just, for me, like art and fishing there's no right or wrong, it's just relaxing and fun. So it's a way for me to clear my head, and especially whether it's a good week or a bad week, it's just get away from it and come back fresh.
The painting side, it's when did you kind of have that artistic side come out of you? I looked at your studio and some of the stuff and some of the paintings, and it's very different to what a lot of footballers do, but it looks excellent.
Yeah, I think my mom was a creative person, and I enjoyed art in school, and so I kind of just started doing it, and just to fill spaces up in my house, and people were interested in it. That's how it kind of started, but now it's something I really enjoy doing, and I mean, I could take a canvas and paint it out. I can take a trash can and paint it. I just put paint on anything. I get in trouble by my wife because there's certain things we'll buy, and she'll be like, "Don't paint this," because I'll just start painting random things in my house, and it's just fun for me to look at it like something and be like, because anyone can go buy a table at a store. In Florida, I build my tables, and then sometimes I paint them or burn something into it just to make it. I did it. I don't
make it unique.
I don't want to just go to a store and get it. So that's just something I like to do.
And last thing, because I know you're free. Robbo had talked about he's hoping that when you get here, that you can be knocking on Bruce Arena's door, getting back into the international setup. Is that what you're really hoping to get from this move, or you just want to enjoy your football?
No, I think I want to do well. I want the team to do well because I said earlier it reflects on and helps individuals, because if the team's doing well, then players are playing well for the team to do well, and then I'm focused on Vancouver. Obviously, I want to play for the national team because I really enjoy that. I like this country, but I'm just focused on Vancouver, because if I play well here, the team plays well, then those will come later. So it's something I think that I don't focus on the national team, because then people don't think I'm worried about this. I'm worried about Vancouver, and then if we do well, then those chances will come for not just me, for a lot of the guys who play for their countries.
Thanks so much, but I really appreciate this. I know you're freezing. Thanks, man. So that was Brek Shea there, just talking about all things Whitecaps and some of the stuff that's going on in his soccer life so far. We kind of spoke to Brek for 10 minutes there on the record, and then I ended up driving him around UBC for a little bit, just to get him back to the training centre and stuff, because he didn't know the way to go and there was no one left to take him back there. So we're chatting a little bit more, and he was telling me that his wife's actually half Canadian, so she has a Canadian passport, so hopefully she will settle in here. She's also 6 months pregnant though with her second child, so it's the whole MLS thing. We've discussed it before about Alan Rashat, where basically players, and they know that they're signing up to this, but it still doesn't make it right. They've got no say. Brek mentioned there, he found out about the transfer 10 minutes before everyone else, and he didn't even get to tell his wife before she read it online. It's not right.
Not at all. It's in the words of Emily Rashat, it's inhumane.
It is, and I know they sign up for that, but have a little bit of compassion. At least speak to the people before. Say, look, this is going down. Prepare your family for it.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And they know that they set it up that way. I remember I was once at an engagement where Martin Rennie was speaking at a public engagement, and there was a question and answer period, and someone said, "What's the most difficult thing you ever had to do when you were a coach?" And he said, "Well, one of the things is, when you have to tell a player that you're trading them or whatever." And so he went, and he didn't name it, and I don't think many people in the room fully understood what he was talking about, but he told the story of how, on a Friday, training was over in the morning. Friday afternoon, he was repping the club at some stuff, and he got the call from people on the committee, the football committee, saying that we've traded Eric Hasley to Toronto. The deal's done. You gotta tell him it's going public in the next 30 minutes or an hour or whatever. And he's just like, and the guy lived in Langley.
Yeah. And
it would take me an hour and a half to drive to his house to tell him to his face. So I had to call him, and I can't remember what Martin Rennie said.
It's shocking.
Yeah, I can't remember what he said in that public interview, but I know from talking to Eric about it, I know that Eric's response to the call was to hang up, essentially.
Yeah.
And deal with it later. But
when it's a non-North American player as well that doesn't even really fully understand that, it just makes it crazy. But I mean, Brek, he seems to be fitting in with the team. He talked about the great camaraderie in the locker room. He already feels kind of part of this team. Do you think he's going to fit into the Whitecaps style of play? We've not seen a lot from him so far that makes you think, hey, he's really worth this designated player money. But from talking to him, he said to me that he doesn't care if he's got a designated player tag or not. It means nothing to him. He still plays the same way, and he wants to win for the team. But when you have that tag, it's like a millstone round your neck.
Yeah, it can be, that's for sure. I think he'll settle in fine in terms of the locker room. I don't foresee any problems there. My concern is that, Robbo has publicly said he's brought him in here as a left-sided midfielder and a striker and a forward. And to me, Brek Shea is not an out-and-out striker. He's not a center forward.
As he's shown so far with his touch.
Well, yeah, and we've been playing him there. We've been trying to use him as we have a tall, big-body guy who can hopefully knock balls on in the air or bring balls in control in the air and lay them off to other guys, bring other guys into play. And I don't think it's played out fully the way they had hoped. And I don't, like you said, I don't think that that's utilizing him in the best way possible.
So, kind of turning our attention to this Saturday's game, Toronto FC. Should probably let listeners know as well that Steve's had to leave, so if you're wondering why it's just Zach and me talking now. Turning our attention to TFC. Obviously a lot of guys put in a hard shift on Tuesday, but this is a big game. It's a Canadian derby. Keen to get their first win of the season. They've only got 1 point so far from their first two games. Better than some teams like LA. We're better than LA. Quarter of the money, if not less. But it is a big game, so it's like, do you play guys like Brek Shea that played so much against Tigres, or do you have to mix it up again?
It's going to be interesting to see how they handle squad rotation for this. Who's going to be in the 11? Who's going to be in the 18? I think that one of the pros going into this, the cons are obviously, yes, the energy, the effort, both physical and mental, that was spent on Tuesday and on Saturday, the preceding Saturday, are big. The other side to this is there's an international break coming up. So, so in one sense, it's okay. We kind of need to go all in on this one game, and we're going to have 2 weeks off before our next competitive match, before our next league match. And so I think that will play in on things a little bit. So I think you probably will see guys like Alphonso Davies back in the starting 11. I think you'll see probably Kendall and Tim Parker at the back. And
I think we may see Nerwinski in at right back, just because Shannon Williams hasn't been fully fit coming into this season, or fully healthy rather.
And Jake's been doing great in his adaptation to MLS and his kind of learning on the job kind of thing, and it feels like he's been growing, and that his time on the pitch, his minutes on the pitch have been helpful, and he has also made some contributions. So. Yeah, I could see that happening. The bigger questions to me will be like some of those guys up top, right? You talk about Brek Shea. We have the 1 year loanee, played 60 minutes. The first time he's played more than an hour in a game. And
I don't expect him to start, but at the same time, we need him to start, because at some point he has to get in the swing of things.
Yeah, I think Eric Hurtado will start up front.
Yeah,
I think in the league, he's in form, and
I'm probably expecting Rusty in as DM.
Yeah,
beside Laba,
I think Laba and Rusty would be a good bet in the middle of the park.
And if Mauro Rosales is good to go, we could see Mauro starting either as the 10 or on right wing.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things is how is Toronto going to prepare for us for this match? I think we have so many questions.
Javinko.
Yeah, well, we have so many questions on what we could do and where we could put different guys, and maybe that's not always a pro from our perspective, but for them in terms of preparing for how we're going to play, I don't think it's very clear cut. I don't think it's necessarily very obvious that we're going to play this way or that way. Some people might disagree and say we're going to play long balls out of the back and whatever, but I really think that having Morrow, like you said, Morrow could play a 10, and that would create different kind of options.
Although with Nico not playing fully last Saturday and then coming on as a sub, you have to kind of think Nico is going to start as a 10. I kind of think we're going to have Nico as 10, Mauro on the right with Bola coming on for him probably about an hour mark, and then Alfonso on the left.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. And then Paulo Tornaghi in net.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
And so is Spencer Ritchie
or Spencer Ritchie. Well, that's the thing. Spencer Ritchie, who had been loaned to WFC2 for the season, shortest loan deal ever.
Yep.
He's now going to be back. And Robbo wouldn't commit on the radio last night that Tornaghi was definitely starting. He just said whichever one of my keepers start. Because Paolo, he had a couple of good saves against San Jose, but he didn't cover himself in glory with some of the other shots that he faced.
It felt a little bit weird. It felt like, his first MLS game was in San Jose last year, and it felt like he had he had time to prepare for it, you know what I mean? It felt like mentally ready and stuff, and if it felt like watching the San Jose game, it felt like there were a couple plays where you felt like, okay, is that nerves? Is that...
Because interestingly, when I spoke to him about being a backup, he said you always have to be ready mentally to come in, and he didn't look it. I agree.
And I think he is in essence. But yeah, once in that game, once he got on the pitch, there were a couple of moments where you're like, I think he wished he had that back.
Yeah, it would be a massive thing for his confidence if he got dropped and Spencer Ritchie came in, and it's a massive gamble to take on Spencer to put him into a game like that. But he's a good keeper. He's a great shot stopper, and I've liked Spencer in the 2 years at USL. I spoke about this in the podcast. He was way ahead of Marco Carducci for me, and I would not be unhappy if they put Spencer in there.
I think you're right in that it would definitely play with the team dynamic.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like Paulo has always had a great attitude. If he doesn't start that game, I wonder if that'll be like a breaking point.
I know. How can you be happy?
Yeah.
When that's your chance, and you know that as soon as the suspension's over, David comes back in. So it's one of the few times he's going to play this year. Yeah. I do still feel that he played that game in San Jose. Robo kind of said it was as a reward, but I do think it was to put him in the shop window because they thought, oh, we'll help him find another club by showing how good he can play, and then they re-signed him.
Well, they took his option, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Paul is a great guy, and so I will always hope the best for him. So I kind of hope that he starts and he has a performance that he's proud of and we're all proud of. I think the San Jose, some of the things in the San Jose game, they were like, okay, the one shot he didn't catch and they scored and it was called back for offside. So you're like, okay,
yeah.
I don't think he got behind that ball the way he wanted to, but we got let off. Even for me, the cross where he punched it that then led to it was the first goal. Like, some people are like, he should have caught that. Part of me is like, I don't know if he should have caught that. Maybe he should have got more on the punch, and his defense did not help him after that. And then some people were saying the third goal was also, you could put on him, but for me, I don't know, I felt it was a quality strike that would be hard for most people to get to.
I held him up, I think, for that one as well. How important do you feel it is that the Whitecaps get something from this game? Because to start with no wins from the first 3 games, there's already a growing online element that's kind of turning against Robo, it kind of feels. I think they'll be out for blood if we finish with no wins from the first 3 games.
Yeah, I'm definitely hearing and seeing some of those same things that you're seeing on social media.
Rightly or wrongly, because it's like I do see both sides.
Yeah.
Folk aren't seeing an advancement in the team.
Again, this is not about Robbo. I would say this about all the coaches we've had. They're all limited in what they can do with our squad for 2 reasons. One, the limited amount of money we're willing to spend on designated players. And 2, the fact that, and the committee has said this publicly, that the committee ultimately controls those 3 designated player spots. And so for me, and I believe I've said this with you and I on the podcast before, Michael, when you control those 3 spots, you really control the makeup of the squad. And so they have said that's for us to give approval for. Therefore, it's really, it comes back to them. A big part of it comes back to them. Then you can have the conversation. What is the coach doing with what he has or what he's done? The other thing is also with most of our coaching, especially in the MLS era, is the coaches are the ones bringing the non-designated players in.
Yeah.
So they're playing role of, in North America you'd say GM and coach, and other parts of the world you might say they're playing the role of coach or manager and technical director or whatever. But so you are building with the blocks you've kind of you've kind of bought or whatever. And so yeah, you can have questions about that, what that looks like, or what he's done with the stuff here. But again, for me, your first concern as a supporter of this club needs to be with those who are entrusted to be stewards of it. Those are the ones who have limited our spending, rightly or wrongly.
Yep.
Limited our put a limit on our spending. No one knows what that limit is, and they are the ones who have approved or not approved of designated players. And that's if you want to get upset about something, that's to me where you need to express your frustration first. And then once there's better clarity around that, or once they give up control of that, or once they give better public parameters around that, and everyone knows what the actual situation is, then you can say, okay, well, I really don't appreciate how the coach is dealing with what he's been given or what he's chosen.
So looking then at the TFC game on Saturday, Zach, what would your prediction be for it? Do you see the team getting it done?
Well, it's nice that Toronto's not bringing the Jovinko's supposedly not either able to play or they're not going to have him play on our surface, whatever it is. So I think that helps us, but I think Toronto's still a very strong and very deep squad, and I think you'd have to favor Toronto in terms of even though they only have 2 draws to begin the year. I think you'd have to favor Toronto to fight for a draw. And on paper, you might say that they should get a win here again at BC Place. But I'm hoping we'll get no less than a draw, and I'm hoping that somehow we'll be able to pull off our first victory of the season.
I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, and Bolaños getting the Whitecaps equaliser.
Bola.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be a pretty game. And it's whether there's any kind of ill effects from travelling back, basically tiredness from travelling back from Mexico, or just a bit of a hangover from that. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, they literally got on a plane after the game, right?
Yeah, they flew out just before 11 o'clock on Tuesday night. So just before we finish this episode of the show, we're going to play a little bit of a fun piece. No wavelength this episode because we did our wavelength special on Sunday. So we're going to bring you a segment we've done on and off over the last couple of years, and it's about bucket lists. And we spoke to Tim Parker just about his footballing bucket list, players, venues, games that he'd like to see, be part of. So let's hear that now. Here is Tim Parker's bucket list. So, Tim, when you were in Wales, you made it to London, you saw your first EPL game there.
Yeah.
That's obviously on a lot of folks' bucket list to kind of do something like that. How did you find that whole experience of seeing that game? I know you're a Spurs fan, it was Arsenal, but how did you find it all?
It was incredible. I think just the opportunity to see the atmosphere there, it's just a different level. You know, I think as a professional over here, you don't see that kind of level of commitment from many teams or many atmospheres or fans and stuff, and I thought it was very nice to see.
As a fan, not taking yourself out of being a footballer just now, if you were to look at a bucket list of some stadiums around the world that you'd like to go and see a football match in, what would be at the top of those for you?
I think the Bernabeu would be the top. I think just going there and seeing kind of the atmosphere of that stadium, and I think just the way they play would all tie in as well.
And as a player, obviously you've got the international thing with America, you've got the Whitecaps here, but if you could pick one team to play against and one player that you'd love to play against in your career, what would you go with?
It's tough because some of them we've gotten the opportunity to play against. I always wanted the opportunity to play against someone like a Frank Lampard, and I enjoyed watching that team back then with Frank Lampard and John Terry at Chelsea, and I think John Terry was my idol growing up, so I think he would probably be the player I'd love to play against.
Like we talked about the Bernabeu there and stuff, if you were to pick one kind of game from around the world, what would that be? Would it be like Madrid, Barcelona? Would it be Spurs, Arsenal? Or what would be your ultimate game to go and see?
Yeah, it's tough. I think I'd have to go with an EPL match. Tough to pick just one. I think an Arsenal-Spurs one would be great to watch just because I'm a Spurs fan. And that would be like a good London derby, but I don't know, it's hard to pick just one just because there's so many good ones over there.
That's great. Thanks so much,
Yeah.
Tim.
Thank
That's
you.
great. Thanks. Tim Parker there with his bucket list. That's it for this episode of the show. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada.
I'm Zachary Adam Eisenarm. You can find me on Twitter at ZacharyAM, and I'm a part of the movement Curva Collective.
The dearly departed Steve Pander, you can find him on Twitter at WhitecapsBeat. Read our stuff online, away from the numbers, aftn.ca. I'm also the Whitecaps beat reporter for MLSsoccer.com and the Western Conference reporter for USLsoccer.com. So until next time, as always, thanks for listening. Take care. And mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. the atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left. Yeah,